Richard Sherman was asked why Kaepernick has not been signed and said it's not about football or color. It's about, boy, stay in your place. He played in Chip Kelly's system last year and went 16-4 in touchdown to interception ratio on a bad team. He played well because he's a good football player. He may not be the best, but he's better than a lot of these dudes starting. Not a lot of guys are willing to step out there, so the guys not speaking up for him are doing him a disservice. There should be a lot more guys saying something. Most guys are like, I don't want my job to end up the same way. Shannon, what is your reaction to what Sherman had to say?
Richard Sherman spoke absolute truth of the matter. Because the NFL contracts are non-guaranteed, because the average NFL career is 3 years, I'm not going to take an opportunity to risk the 3 years that I might have that cut down to 1 or 2 and not have guaranteed money. See, the NBA, MLB, they have guaranteed contracts. Guys are more apt. That's why you see LeBron James and you see some of the guys in the NBA willing to take more of an out-front stance on social issues. I would like to see more players speak out, but I don't really think that's going to happen. And that also explains, Richard Sherman said a couple of weeks ago, players, if we want to get money more in line with MLB and basketball, we might need to miss some games and some game checks. But guys are not willing to risk those game checks because, Skip, oftentimes the person that's speaking out on certain issues isn't the person that necessarily benefits. It comes after the fact.
Sure.
Give you a prime example in sports, Curt Flood. Oh. He didn't get the opportunity to benefit from free agency.
One of my favorite early players, because I love the St. Louis Cardinals, but go ahead.
Yes.
And he won and lost. Yes.
He won and he lost, but everybody that came after him won.
They did.
Because we see the contracts that they're getting now, Skip.
Yeah.
And what Richard is speaking to, he sees that Colin Kaepernick, who did not abuse anyone, did not get a DUI and kill anyone, did not harm animals, didn't do anything, didn't steal property, and he gets treated like this. And he mentioned Michael Vick. He said Michael Vick got a $100 million contract. To this day, Michael Vick is the only NFL player to ever receive 2 $100 million contracts.
Yep.
He received the second one after spending time in Fort Leavenworth, a federal prison where he was running an illegal dogfighting operation. There's no such thing as legal dogfighting, but I'm just saying that's what he went to prison for and gave him a second chance. That very organization that gave Michael Vick a second chance had a receiver on that team utter the atomic bomb of racial slurs. Riley Cooper said the N-word. Not only did they not release him, they gave him a contract extension. And
I called for his release the next day. It's the most evil word in our language. Go ahead.
And if you remember, Michael Vick was sitting right there, and he said in the meeting, Chip Kelly, Michael, what should we do? He put the black guy on the spot.
He did.
What was Michael going to say? Release him?
I don't know. We had Michael on the show, and I cross-examined him about that because I thought maybe in hindsight Michael would say, I regret that, but he didn't. He thought that was a bold and important statement for him to make. But go ahead.
Riley Cooper got a contract extension.
He did.
Even the owner, Jeffrey Luer, wrote and said, hey, he regrets that it happened. He apologized. Everybody deserves a second chance, and we're ready to move on. That's what he said with that incident. We have John Mara, who's co-owner of the New York Giants. He gave a guy 2 years, $4 million contract after the guy told him, I abused my wife. Now, John Mara was very out front and says he received some of the harshest letters he's ever received talking about Colin Kaepernick. Yet he said nothing about what fans potentially said about the Josh Brown signing. You see how hypocritical that is, Skip. But what we're starting to see is that people, the owners, not people, and some people too, but the owners view what Colin Kaepernick did worse than a guy that went to prison for dogfighting, worse than a guy using the racial epithet, worse than a guy that abused his wife and told you he did it. That's what we're starting to see, Skip. The problem that I have is twofold on a lot, because I have the utmost respect for our young men and women of the military because they give their life and some of them have to pay the ultimate sacrifice. But we'll send those brave young men and women to a foreign soil and ask them to fight for freedoms and liberties of people that's not American citizens. But we're very hesitant to fight for the very citizens that represent the United States of America.